Hello everyone, it's 1 o'clock. Welcome to our AVD webinar. We're just gonna wait for a few more minutes for other people to join. We already have a healthy attendance for this right now, so we're just gonna wait for a couple more people to join and we'll start shortly. All right, so it is 1:03. I think we'll begin the webinar. So again, thanks everyone for joining us today. We have a pretty good topic today around Azure Virtual Desktop. We are joined today by Rasha Jafar. She's the product sales manager for Azure here at Sherweb. My name is Roman Zmiev. I'm the product marketing manager for Azure here at Sherweb. We have with us James Bennington, who's the cloud solutions architect from Microsoft. We have Charlotte Oikel, partner technology strategist from Microsoft. So pretty solid panelist. Yeah, welcome again, and we'll begin right away. So I'll pass the presenter role to Rasha. Rasha, to you.
Thank you, Roman. Hello, everyone. So just like Roman said, my name is Rasha, and I'm the product sales manager for Azure at Sherweb. Now I'm going to start with who is Sherweb and why would you work with us? To begin with, we are your all-in-one cloud marketplace with an ever-expanding portfolio of innovative products that we handpicked and pre-vetted for you, our partners. As a leading cloud solution provider, we work hand in hand with you to help you grow your managed service offering. And we also support you with different ways, specifically with business strategy, with cloud services, operations, even go-to-market expertise, and a host of other benefits. And as you can see, we are also, as you can also see, we also have our own hosted solutions for any company size, for any challenge. We have our private and hybrid cloud, desktop as a service, and backup. And we service over 7,000 partners, maintaining a high level of customer service and relationships, as you are, guys, our top priority. We encompass on our marketplace many areas. Among them, we have the productivity, security, infrastructure, which is Azure, what the subject of our call today as desktop as a service. We also have voice business apps and partner services, as you can see among our vendors. Most importantly, we are an extension of your team, and we provide you more focus with fewer headaches. And you can take all of these benefits with less heavy lifting, if you want to say. Now, as an extension of your team, as you can see, we provide you first with personalized help desk services with 24/7 technical support and different escalations whenever a problem occurs, also with a simple invoice, one invoice where you have all of your products together consolidated and better to be managed. You also have an executive and account manager, which is dedicated to you to help you with the onboarding, the training, coaching, and even the advisor, and is the single point of contact that is going to link you to other services. We also have our pre-sales solution services, where we support you with design consultation and with our different experts that will help you on different solutions, and in this specific case, Azure and Azure Virtual Desktop. We also have marketing experts that will help you with marketing funds. We take care with everything for you, and we go beyond traditional reselling for you. Now, you can reach out to us after this call. You can reach out to us through our account managers or through our website, and we will be more than happy to assist you. But now let's attack the Azure Virtual Desktop, and I'm back to Roman. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rasha. So just a quick reminder before I pass the role to our friends at Microsoft. So the session is recorded, and at the end of the webinar, we'll send you a copy of the recording. And if you feel like you want to ask a question throughout the webinar, please don't hesitate to use the chat option. We'll stop the webinar and we'll answer your questions. And last little thing, we will have also a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the webinar. So if you feel like asking a question at the end, that's also an option. So without further ado, I'll pass the presenter role to Charlotte.
Thank you so much, Roman. And thank you everyone for joining us today. big thank you to the Sherweb team, Rasha, Roman, and the rest of the Sherweb team for your collaboration today. In this webinar, as Roman mentioned, we'll cover off sort of desktop as a service generally, as well as AVD. My name is Charlotte, as Roman said at the beginning of the call. I'm a partner technology strategist, and I am based in Toronto, Canada. Supporting me on the call today, too, is James Pennington. James is one of our Azure solution architects, and he'll be supporting with questions in the chat or any questions. And thanks, James, for coming on camera really quick for a quick wave. That's great. And a big thank you to you, James, for supporting us on this call today, too. In terms of what we'll cover off today, we'll focus on a general introduction to desktop as a service, some of the benefits of desktop as a service, the shift to remote work and some of the challenges it's brought about, how Azure Virtual Desktop can help with some of those challenges, some of the partner integration opportunities between AVD and Citrix and VMware, if some of you are used to using those. We'll touch on some customer success stories too. And we'll also talk a little bit about the Azure pricing calculator, as well as some recommended resources and next steps. You can move forward, please, one, Roman, that would be great. Thank you so much. And just for the folks on the line, Roman's being kind enough to drive my slides today. We had a little bit of lag last time we did it, so I apologize if it does seem a little bit, awkward if I'm cueing Roman, but we found this would be the smoothest way to do it. So thank you so much, Roman, for helping out with that. When we think about today's workers, they really want the freedom to respond to email, to collaborate with colleagues from anywhere on any device, whether that be working from the dining table like I did for 2 years, or at the airport waiting for a flight to board, or in the carpool line waiting to drop the kids off. The pandemic really proved that remote teams can succeed no matter from where they worked. Even so, what we've seen is that many companies are still scrambling to accommodate the technological needs of hybrid workers. Desktop as a service, sometimes known as DaaS, can really help with those challenges. So when we think about what DaaS is, think about it as a high-performing, secure, cost-effective type of desktop virtualization that really frees businesses from tethering their computer OS as well as their productivity suites to physical hardware. And instead, businesses can use DaaS to access virtual desktops over the internet from a cloud provider. And these cloud providers that offer services like this really distribute and manage virtual desktops from their own data centers. You can move forward one moment, please. Thank you so much. So when we think about how DaaS differs from on-premise, it really differs in a number of ways, but I find that it really can be distilled down into 3 key differentiators. First is pricing. So with DaaS, companies can avoid making advanced purchases of hardware that they anticipate needing, such as expensive desktops or laptops. And instead, companies can pay cloud providers only for the data, resources, and services that they'll use. Another key differentiator also is scalability. So cloud providers offer companies the freedom to use any amount of desktops on a fluctuating basis. This really gives companies instant access to the precise number of desktops that they need whenever and wherever that they need them. And finally, management. Cloud providers offering DaaS conduct maintenance, data storage, updates, backup, and other desktop management for companies that outsource these solutions. DaaS providers really often manage their customers' desktops, applications, and security as well. Now, I'd like to move forward one, Roman, please, and we'll talk a little bit about the benefits of DaaS. So there are many benefits of desktop as a service, but if I had to distill it down, I would distill it down into 5 key benefits. First is really the enablement of remote work. The rise of hybrid and remote workplaces really calls for a different approach to accessing applications and data. With DaaS, IT teams can easily move data between different platforms, and users can easily access data they need from machines no matter where they work. Also think about supporting Bring Your Own Device, or BYOD. Besides freeing employees from physical offices, DaaS can also free employees from solely working on company-issued devices or with one particular device. With DaaS, IT teams can more easily support a BYOD policy that lets employees work on their own phones, tablets, and laptops. It also simplifies desktop management. So for IT teams, outsourcing the deployment, configuration, and management of virtual desktops, that can really help reduce their administrative load. The ability to also quickly scale up or down the use of desktops, as well as applications and data, really helps ease IT administrative duties. And also think about it from a security perspective. DaaS really poses fewer security risks because the data resides in the cloud provider's data center and not on physical laptops, tablets, phones that our employees are using. If a computer or device gets stolen, it can be easily disconnected from the cloud service. And finally, the overall reduction of IT costs. So DaaS solutions can save businesses money by shifting IT costs from traditional on-premise hardware and software purchased upfront and in bulk often to cloud-based services and desktops that are purchased as needed. And DaaS can really run on devices that require far less computing power than a standard laptop or desktop machine, which also helps companies save money. Allowing employees to use their own devices also helps save on hardware costs, really overall, reducing the workload of company IT teams and letting those IT teams focus on more innovative initiatives, taking them away from sort of the day-to-day administration of desktops and laptops. Now, next up, Roman, if you can move forward one slide, please. I'd like to talk a little bit about, the general shift to remote work that we've seen over the past few years. The pandemic really accelerated the world's shift to remote work. And with that, it created some challenges. In this new world of remote work, organizations really need to adopt technology that enables secure remote work, regardless of location. Revamp technology to be more responsive when facing unprecedented change. Evaluate cloud solutions to better deliver security and scalability. And really implement solutions that are cost optimized. And there are some interesting statistics, Roman, if you could move forward one, please, regarding the shift to remote work. What we've seen is that companies are embracing VDI, or virtual desktop infrastructure, to address remote work needs. And there's some interesting stats that support that. So you can see on the slide here that about 60% of employees say that the ability to work flexibly or work from home would impact whether they stay at their current organization. Another interesting statistic was that desktop as a service has exponentially exploded. Spending doubled between 2019 and 2020. It rose again by 70% between 2020 and 2021. And we expect that to double again from last year to 2025. If you could move forward one, please, Roman. And Cloud VDI can really address some key IT challenges and use cases. First is data security. So companies can improve regulatory compliance and IP protection through data centralization and a reduced threat service by leveraging VDI. High capacity computing. So VDI really provides cloud scale compute and storage to support specialized workloads like dev environments. We talked a little bit about this already, but bring your own PC or bring your own device. Cloud VDI really enables virtual desktops, even on personal devices. From a DR or a disaster recovery perspective, VDI really helps ensure continuity and access for your workforce and company data, even in the most challenging circumstances. And, in our channel as well, we see a lot of sort of SMB type organizations that scale up and scale down their workforces, and Cloud VDI really simplifies that as well by accelerating the onboarding and offboarding process easily for those companies that might have elastic workforces. And finally, we've also seen, a lot of merger and acquisition activity, and cloud VDI can really provide seamless transition and access for growing businesses in that scenario. Roman, if you could please move forward one, that would be great. So we've talked a little bit about DaaS and VDI generally, but let's get into Azure Virtual Desktop now. So Azure Virtual Desktop is a desktop and application solution that enables your remote workforce to stay productive regardless of location or device, all while being secure, scalable, and cost-effective. There are a few key features of AVD. So you can deliver Windows 10 or Windows 11 desktops virtually everywhere, give your employees the only virtual desktop solution that's fully optimized for Windows 10, Windows 11, and Microsoft 365, with multi-session capabilities. So no matter what device they're using and no matter where they're using it from. You can also simplify deployment and management. The Azure portal really enables your teams to configure network settings, add users, deploy desktops and applications, and also enable security, often with just a few clicks. Citrix and VMware customers can also streamline the delivery of virtual desktops and applications with Azure, and we'll talk about those use cases shortly as well. You also have the ability to keep your applications and data secure and compliant using the built-in and reliable security features of Azure to stay ahead of potential threats and also take remediation when needed. And we've talked about cost considerations before, but it also really allows you to reduce costs with multi-session as well as existing licensing. You can optimize your costs with eligible M365 or Windows licenses that you often already have. You can leverage Windows 10 and Windows 11 multi-session support to reduce your infrastructure costs and take advantage of other flexible consumption-based pricing to pay for only what you use. Now, let's dig into each of these a little bit further. Roman, if you could please move forward one. Thank you so much. So with AVD, what it really does is provides you with access to Windows 10 and Windows 11 on a variety of devices. It gives you the opportunity to deliver a seamless experience for Office and Teams as well. And it really lets you personalize the Windows 11 and Windows 10 virtual experience with roaming user profiles. And when we think about AVD from an admin perspective, if you could move forward one, please, Roman. For IT teams, it really lets them maintain full control over configuration and management of desktops through a few things. You can enable GPU accelerated app rendering and encoding on AVD desktop session hosts. You can have the ability to specify how those desktops are distributed amongst VMs, and really allowing you to simplify the delivery of company-specific applications with additional capabilities for external users if that use case applies to you. And from a security perspective, if you can move forward one, please, Roman. Thank you so much. AVD really unlocks the security and reliability of Azure through using Azure Active Directory and MFA or multi-factor authentication to secure your virtual desktops. You can deploy your virtual infrastructure in Azure data centers around the world. And you can provide management and customization options for your IT teams by leveraging different Azure services, such as Azure Monitor is one that we see quite commonly come up. And then, of course, from a cost perspective, if you could please move forward one, Roman. Thank you so much. AVD really lets you optimize your costs through, we've talked about it already, but running multiple desktop sessions on a single VM with Windows 11 and Windows 10 multi-session, optimize deployment costs and scale session host VMs with autoscale. You can also use existing Windows and M365 licenses to access Windows 11, Windows 10, as well as Microsoft Office. Really, AVD lets you provide a great experience across multiple versions. If you could move forward one, please, Roman. Thank you. So AVD provides experiences across the versions that you see here on the slide. From a Windows Server 2019 perspective, it gives you a scalable multi-user Windows environment that supports users running Office 2019 on the long-term servicing channel. You can also run Windows 11 Enterprise, offering a single or multi-user modern Windows experience with enhanced security, improved performance, M365 apps on the semi-annual channel. Or finally, a Windows 10 Enterprise experience offering single user or multi-user session experience with M365 apps on the semi-annual channel. AVD really allows companies to improve productivity while keeping costs manageable. If you could please move forward one, Roman. So a study was done recently by Forrester Consulting in January of 2021 on the total economic impact that AVD has on organizations. And there were a couple of statistics that stood out to us. The first one is 22 hours on average of increased productivity per person on an annual basis in organizations that had moved to AVD. On the cost side of things, they saw about a 34% reduction of licensing and IT-related costs when having moved from on-prem infrastructure to AVD. And so where do those cost savings actually come from when we migrate from on-prem to AVD? If you could please move forward one, Roman. Thank you so much. There are really three key areas that enable you to lower costs while modernizing your existing virtual desktop infrastructure to also enable a secure desktop experience from anywhere. And really that comes down to three areas of lowered costs. So first is, of course, infrastructure costs. You can lower your infrastructure investment and operating costs with the flexibility and scalability of cloud. You can scale your infrastructure up or down based on your business needs and pay for only what you use. And it gives you the option to use flexible, virtual machine features through Microsoft Azure, such as multi-session, as well as helping maximize VMs and deliver added cost savings as well. On the licensing considerations, as we mentioned earlier, you can leverage existing licenses and pay for only what you use with an eligible Windows or M365 license, and you'll see that list shortly, which many businesses already have. You can access AVD and pay for only what you use. On the RDS side, there's no RDS CALs required for multi-session, which means instant licensing savings there. And you can also leverage Microsoft App Assure programs in case you do experience any application compatibility issues. And really it comes down to as well the total cost of ownership. So Azure Virtual Desktop supplies a managed VDI, advanced monitoring, and other tooling that reduces manual updates and the overall cost of ownership. AVD manages the VDI for you, so you don't have to worry about managing infrastructure components like gateways, web access, and so on that you would have to with traditional RDS. And overall, really allowing the simplification of IT management with advanced monitoring tools, things like log analytics, Azure Monitor, that really help you understand your performance and proactively identify issues. We also see organizations gain efficiency through using Azure Resource Manager or ARM, or things like Azure DevOps to implement automation for you with your Azure Virtual Desktop deployment. And you have a few options when it comes to migrating to Azure Virtual Desktop. Roman, if you could please move forward one, that would be great. Excellent, thank you so much. So, there's a couple of options here. You can migrate. We've seen customers migrate using their own in-house technical teams if they have that type of experience. We've seen some customers use tools like Citrix or VMware if they're already using them. But most often than not, we see that what commonly happens is customers will work with a partner like Sherweb to support them in their migration to AVD. And, for those organizations that are thinking about this, I think you've made a great choice. attending today's session and partnering or thinking about partnering with Sherweb, because they're very well versed in this area. For those companies that are already familiar with Citrix or VMware, we'll talk a little bit about those partnerships next. If you could please move forward. We'll move forward too, please, Roman. That'd be great. Awesome. Thank you so much. So on the Citrix side of things, Citrix really allows you to deliver enterprise value and unified management around ABD from a few perspectives. First is that workplace experience. This lets you include ABD desktop workloads within Citrix Workspace for central access to applications, desktops, and files. On the image management side, you can simplify management by layering your OS, your apps, and user data on ABD resources and rapidly provision updates. With the hybrid cloud journey, you can accelerate the move to Azure for on-premise customers and enable management of on-prem and ABD workloads from one console. And finally, environment management. This really allows you to optimize host performance, accelerate application delivery, and enhance scalability as well for ABD. And if you're more familiar with working with VMware or already using VMware, if you can move forward one, please, Roman. Thank you so much. VMware Horizon on Azure extends ABD capabilities to cloud through a few mechanisms. First is broad endpoint support with enhanced remote experience, global brokering with cloud optimized architecture, real-time audio, video, and peripheral support as well, an enhanced user environment management capability, flexible desktop options and configurations, and really a hybrid environment management plane across both on-premise and cloud. So, we've talked a little bit about what DaaS is, some of the benefits of DaaS, the challenges that it helps address, what ABD is, and partner integration with both Citrix and VMware. But I find that it really helps to put things into context by talking about a few customer success stories. Thank you so much, Roman. If you could hop forward one, that would be great. So first up is Results CX. Results CX is an AI-powered customer care, customer success company. Historically, they had installed and managed the necessary hardware and software on-premise, either at its own facilities or at its customers' call centers. But they found a need that they wanted to develop really a new remote and hybrid model for staffing and equipping call centers to really heighten the customer service value that they were bringing to their customers. And you can see here with the quote on the slide that it really highlights the role that ABD played in supporting their remote workforce. And next up, if you can move forward one, please, Roman. Thank you so much. Is NIP Group. So NIP Group is an insurance company that was looking to simplify IT management through ABD. They were aiming to deliver reliable financial services as well as convenient and engaging digital experiences for about 6,000 customers. But being in the space that they're in, it was also really important to them to do so in a way that they maintained the safeguarding of client data, as well as meeting tough compliance requirements that they were subjected to. And to achieve this, NIP Group really needed an advanced, reliable, high-performing IT structure that also included comprehensive network and data security. You can see here on the slide that the chief engineer was quoted as saying that Azure really gave them the option to choose SaaS and infrastructure as a service, something that they wouldn't have been able to do on premise, and they can host their services from anywhere up in the world and really get those services up and running much faster than what they were used to. If you can move forward one, please, Roman. Thank you so much. So most of us have heard of this one, Sage. In 1981, Sage was formed, and by 2020, they really offered the biggest accountancy software package in the UK and the third largest worldwide. Sage really took a step back and decided to redesign their remote access architecture that they use to host offerings for their own customers. and you can see here on the slide, their development manager stated that, the sheer amount of investment that Microsoft makes in the Azure ecosystem and the security that it provides are really unparalleled in the market, giving Sage's partners the ability to take advantage of the innovation and security of Azure, in which Microsoft has invested billions of dollars, and they get the peace of mind of delivering on a trusted platform. If you can move forward one, please, Roman. And finally, this is another one that a lot of us know is Rico. Rico really aimed to be ahead of the digital transformation curve in the world of manufacturing, and really wanted to begin leveraging cloud computing. By incorporating AVD, Rico was able to create a flexible and scalable design environment, all the while keeping their costs down. You can see here on the slide, their design group lead was quoted as saying, in an on-premise VDI, first it takes about 3 months to purchase the equipment, then it takes several months to install it, but with AVD, they were able to get up and running and deployed really quickly relative to what they were used to. So we've talked a little bit about some customer success stories. Now we want to talk a little bit about some next steps. If you could please move forward. Thank you so much, Roman. What we found is that many customers don't realize that they're already eligible for AVD. So you can see a list on this slide here, but on the client side, customers are eligible to access Windows 11 and Windows 10 single and multi-use sessions with Azure Virtual Desktop if they have one of the following licenses listed on this slide here. And on the server side, customers are eligible to access server workloads with AVD if they have the licenses listed on the slide as well. Customers pay for the VMs, the storage, and the networking consumed when the users are using the service. And next up, what I wanted to chat a little bit about too was the Azure pricing calculator. Awesome. Thank you so much, Roman. So some of you may have heard of the Azure pricing calculator. Some of you might have not, but we definitely recommend checking out the Azure pricing calculator. There's an option to run the Azure pricing calculator for Azure Virtual Desktop. So please definitely head to that pricing calculator, search for Virtual Desktop. Once that form has loaded, you'll see that there are several components on the form for which your costs can be estimated. You'll see the first part of the form is really about the virtual machine. You can select the region where you'd like the virtual desktops to be placed. You could select the type. You can choose between things like pooled and personal. Oftentimes I find that in our space, most times customers will go through that exercise based on a pooled experience. They can also select the session type, which could be multi-session or single session. And next up is workload type. So you'll go in and you'll select the workload as well. And this is an exercise that I find is very important to work closely with your customers to estimate, how many users that they anticipate having per virtual desktop. Also on the form, I'd be remiss not to mention that you'll see there's little tooltips on each of the options that you have on the Azure pricing calculator. Definitely recommend checking those out. There's some recommendations there that will help you identify which option you should select. So things like that workload type, things like multi-session or single session, it will really sort of give you some guidance around that in terms of which option to select. So you'll go through that sort of the features and the options around the VM, the virtual desktop itself. Next up is the user section. So this is where you'll estimate how many users you'll think your customers will have in the environment. You can also adjust concurrency. So how many of those users do you expect to be working at the same time? And you can also estimate off-peak usage as well. Once you've done that, you'll also have a few other choices as well. You'll have the option to select file storage, data transfer, and so on to really get down to a final outcome. The calculator will give you a total cost per user, as well as how that total cost really breaks down into individual cost components. And one other thing to mention there too is, I know you met Rasha at the beginning of the call, but Rasha as well is a deep expert on the Azure pricing calculator. as well as some of the other Sherweb folks. So I'd really recommend if you check it out yourself, or if you have questions, definitely reach out to your Sherweb team to help you go through that Azure pricing calculator exercise. And we also have a few recommended resources as well. If you could please move forward one, Roman. Amazing. Thank you so much. So there are a number of great resources available out there. And there are two that I think are really top of mind for me, particularly is our aka.ms/AVD docs. This link will take you to all of our official MS docs on AVD. So that will help you sort of with some of the technical capabilities and features. If you're more interested in skilling or learning or training on AVD, please head over to the Learn Pass that you'll find at ak.ms/AVD train. And finally, I mentioned it earlier, but definitely reach out to your Sherweb team. If you're a current partner of Sherweb or thinking about it, you've made a great decision in partnering with them, as they've supported many resellers and customers in their AVD journey. And then finally, just a big thank you for your time today. So I know this is a very busy time of year as we ramp up to wind down for the holidays. I know there's a lot on the go. So we definitely appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules. It's not lost on us that you probably had to squeeze this in today. So I wanted to thank you for that and thank the Sherweb team for having us. And I'll pass it back to Roman and Rasha or James if there's been any questions in the chat. Pass it back to the team.
Perfect. Thank you, Charlotte. So yeah, to the audience, if you have any questions, you can just type them directly into the chat. We have a few minutes to answer them. So chat is open. You can just type them directly, and we'll answer them. So
perfect. And I have a quick question, Roman. Just making sure the team on the line will get a copy of the deck, right? I just want to make sure that they'll get those links. Okay, perfect.
Absolutely, yeah. A copy of the deck and a copy of the recording will be sent to everyone who attended today's call.
Perfect.
So we do have a question that came in here. It says, how does the pricing work? Would we purchase it through Microsoft or through Sherweb?
Do you want to take that one, Rasha? Yeah. So basically, when you're pricing it, when you're doing the design, you're doing the estimation on the pricing calculator. But then when you're working through Sherweb, through the CSV, you're going to have your subscription created through Sherweb, and then you provision the resources under the Azure portal using the subscription created through Sherweb. So it's an indirect work with Microsoft. And this is how you do it. And as I explained at the beginning, it's going to be a single invoice for all of the products and services that you provision and buy through Sherweb. And that's the whole deal behind the indirect CSV, of course.
Thank you, Rasha. We have a licensing question. So does Office 365 E3 include this?
Let's check the list here. Yes, so M365 E3 and E5. When you get the copy of the deck, if you hop to slide 25, I think it is, Roman, it does show a list of those licenses there. There you go, you got it. Perfect, yeah. So that slide there lists out the eligible licenses. And as Roman and Rasha said, we'll send a copy of this deck out too for further reference.
Perfect. So follow-up question from the same person, but isn't M365 E3 different than Office 365 E3?
Oh, pardon me. I thought you were asking about M365. I often make that confusion there myself. That's a good question. So let me take that one away, Roman, and I'll double check whether the same eligibility applies. So I'll make a note of that question and we'll make sure you have that. You can follow up with that person? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. I will be able to follow up with you directly. Okay, another question. What about old E3, not the M365 E3? Are licenses included? I'm assuming this is the exact same.
Probably the same, yeah, exactly. So we'll confirm whether the older Office 365 licenses are included.
Perfect. One more question here. How does the accessing the virtual desktop work with outside program licensing like Autodesk? does the person access the same virtual desktop every time?
So James, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there's an option to do personal or pooled virtual desktops.
Right.
And in certain workloads, you may want to have a dedicated personal desktop versus a pool that might be just assigned to any user. But
Yes.
James, I'll let you chime in there.
So in applications that have like sort of their own user assigned licenses or seat assigned licenses, you'll want to be careful with how you provision that, much like Charlotte just alluded to. So I mean, the general thing is basically what Charlotte just said there. You want to look at, is it seat assigned? If it's seat assigned, then you want to make sure that only one person at a time can log into that session. If it needs to be persistent for the application delivery, obviously you need to go with a persistent versus a non-persistent desktop. But there's a lot of guidance usually provided, especially by partners who've been working with Microsoft for several years or doing virtualized delivery, either through older RAS or now a Windows 365 delivery. Around how to best deal with these types of issues. If there's any question, I think you're probably best in that case to speak to the third party who's actually providing the license for that software, because they're going to know for sure how you're not going to invalidate that license agreement. And just to make sure everything's copacetic. But it's probably very much going to depend on that persistent versus non-persistent and how you assign your user rights to the groups of people you want to be able to leverage that application's licenses. So I hope that answers the question. It's a bit of a difficult one to answer because every license agreement is a little bit different, but I think that sort of generalizes it for the answer.
Perfect. Thank you, James. I'll give it maybe another 30 seconds for any last questions that may come in. And if there's no questions, we'll conclude today's session.
There is a call out I'd like to make, not that it's probably that important to people these days implementing AVD, but 64-bit desktops, and Charlotte did cover the versions that are covered, but it is only 64-bit versions. You cannot deploy 32-bit versions of any of those softwares. Obviously, that doesn't relate so much to more recent versions of Windows Server, of course, but even the Windows desktop client, it has to be a 64-bit version. That being said, you can deploy 32-bit applications in most cases. I'll caveat that with the air quotes to that 64-bit and use the WoW 3264 as you would on your own desktop to deliver that 32-bit application. Again, if you stumble across issues deploying 32-bit applications into 64-bit Windows environments, there's a lot of times vendor guidance on how to deal with those issues you come up across, because 64-bit desktops have been pretty common for a few years now. So just wanted to make that call out because it wasn't part of the presentation. And
no, that's a very good call.
Yeah, maybe curb a question or two that comes across there, because RDS and previous versions like Windows 365 did hybrid support 32-bit in some cases, but now with AVD in the latest generation, that's been deprecated. So I just want to make that call out.
Thank you so much, James. Great shout.
And in all cases, you can just reach out to us, just like you can see on the screen. You can reach out to our team. We can help you in the consultation part at the beginning, and as a pre-sale support, it comes with new services that we offer to you, our partners. And of course, if you're facing some difficulties or you need help in the post-sales phase in the migration or the implementation part, we also have a team of experts that are able to help you with this. So please just reach out to us with your questions, with your opportunities, and we will guide you through it from A to Z.
Thank you, Rasham. So someone is asking in the chat regarding the licensing question, how will the answer be shared with everyone? Basically, I could do a follow-up email. I could send just a follow-up email directly from my mailbox to everyone who attended today's webinar. I could reference the question and I could simply put in the answer. So be on the lookout for an email directly from myself with the answer.
Thanks, Roman.
So no problem, my pleasure. We have another question that came in. I think it's a multi-part question, so I'm going to read it out, and if you want me to kind of dissect it, I'll be able to do that. So here it goes. What would be helpful is some best use case scenarios. Who is the target? What types of workers? if the data is on-prem, is it a viable solution?
Well, actually, when you reach out to us, we will provide you with this through our account managers. We help you with this also. We help you tackle pain points, the most frequently asked questions, and any question that might come up for a specific situation with your customers. So, and it's a free service, so please take advantage of us.
I'll add to that too, Rasha, that the use cases for virtual desktops has also expanded significantly since the days of, RAS and RDS and that. So yes. Don't paint yourself into a box, a mental box of what the what's that terminology one of my coworkers always uses, the art of the possibility, right? Or yes. don't think it's just for delivering a small app or something like that. They have some of the use cases are extraordinary with delivering things, and someone even asked there in the chat about delivering something like AutoCAD or Autodesk via a virtual desktop. I mean, go back 10-15 years ago, that was very difficult, if not impossible to do. Now with GPU accelerated virtual machines and all of the integrations and stuff that you can do, that is a possibility, as well as many other things. So imagine actually being able to log in via an HTTP session to a virtual desktop on a tablet and being able to do AutoCAD from there on a very powerful server or workstation remotely. Very, very possible items. So just don't box yourself in with what you think is possible. Definitely reach out to your Sherweb team and give them, challenge them with something like, hey, we want to do this. Can you do a POC? Can you show us? Has other clients done it before? And they'll definitely be able to help you out with that.
Definitely. Thank you, James.
Thank you, James. 2 more questions that came in. I'm really enjoying this session, really interactive. So if you have more questions, by all means, we still have 10 minutes. So feel free to send them through chat. So first question is, when dealing with the OS, AHB is used to defer the monthly cost of the OS to an upfront one-time fee, correct?
Yeah, the hybrid use benefit. Is that what you're referring to? The person is referring to? Okay.
AHB, Azure Hybrid Benefit. Well, with the Azure Virtual Desktop, as long as you have eligible licenses, you don't have. Even if you go on the pricing calculator for Azure Virtual Desktop, you're not going to find the license included. It's going to be excluded. But given that you will have your licenses on premises, of course.
Perfect. Thank you. Next question. If a client is running on-prem Citrix XenApp environment and they want to migrate Citrix environment to Azure, would that involve AVD, and can Sherweb help with that situation?
Okay, we definitely can help you with everything. I don't really know the details of the Citrix application myself, but once you reach out to us, our team of experts will break down all of the requirements and what will be included. Definitely, there's the licensing part for the AVD, but as Charlotte was explaining throughout the webinar, there is the infrastructure part for the desktop, which is through the Azure Virtual Desktop itself, the Azure Virtual Machines that are recommended for the AVD solution itself. So once you reach out to us for this specific case, our team of experts will be able to answer your question with a very specific technical answer.
There's definitely Citrix to AVD migrations, and then there's Citrix on AVD migrations. So there's definitely 2 different paths, and I think like Rasha said, Charlotte touched on it during the presentation there. And it's definitely whatever you want as a customer, your solution to look like. We have sort of a use case to fit that. And then Sherweb can go through the options and determine what's best for you. Do you stay with Citrix tied into AVD in Azure, or do you maybe do a holistic move to AVD, take Citrix out of the picture to reduce complexity and licensing costs? So there's so many different options there.
Thank you, James. We have, which I believe is the last question here. If one of the supported licenses are used, are there any additional costs? When does the calculator need to be used?
So
I'll touch. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say. So in addition to so aside from the licensing piece, there is the usage cost of the desktop itself. You'll see when you get to the pricing calculator, there will also be, you'll have to estimate data transfer, you'll have to estimate bandwidth, things like that. So there are costs aside from the licensing piece. So many of those licenses that you saw on the slide there, a lot of customers already have them. So the licensing piece oftentimes is often covered, but there is the usage of the virtual desktop infrastructure as well. And that's where we've seen some cost efficiencies, people moving to like that cost as you use it versus like paying for upfront hardware or things like that. So Rasha, I know you're very well versed in this, so please, if you have anything to add there, please do.
It's just whenever you don't have the license ready that you want to buy the license, you're going to buy the licenses per user. For the AVD desktop. And as Charlotte just explained, there's the infrastructure part. This is where you need the pricing calculator because it's going to recommend to you, depending on the number of users that you have, the different inputs that you're gonna add to the pricing calculator in terms of storage, in terms of bandwidth, data transfer, etc. It's going to recommend for you the best virtual machine that can support your specific case, your requirements, and how many virtual machines you're going to be needing. And of course, it's going to showcase to you the estimated cost that's going to come with this infrastructure.
Thank you, Rasha.
Just going to share a link with you, Roman. You can share with this person. It gives a little, it's related to the Azure pricing calculator, but it drives into, it might be a link off of the Azure pricing calculator AVD section where you can actually drill in, and it talks about how to maybe get some details or what you need to consider with respect to how to put things into the calculator, because some of it may not be clear to first-time users or people who are just trying to look at it to get an overall idea. So definitely just for that a person who asked that question, that's a good place to start.
And our pre-sales team help you with this as well.
Sure, perfect. Let me just see if I can flip the link directly into the general chat. Just give me a moment. Okay, I just want to make sure that everyone has received the link. Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, very good. So on that note, we don't have any more questions. Again, one last thank you to everyone who attended today. Thank you to Microsoft for taking the time and really giving a thorough presentation. Any questions that you might have, you can again reach out to our team. I believe the number and the email were displayed on the previous slide, but I'm just going to flesh it up one more time. Any questions whatsoever, we'll be able to help you out. So on that note, thanks a lot for attending, and obviously have a great day.
Thank you, Roman. Thank you, Charlotte and James. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Take care.
Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.